From bikes to trains to video games, the biggest toy store there is may cease to exist. Toys R Us is closing its doors, and it's sad to think that we won't be able to go there anymore. You may wonder, why is that such a big deal? And why are people so devastated by it? I'll try to explain.
Do you guys like toys? Well, I don't have any.
Toys R Us began with a man named Charles Lazarus, who grew up working in his father's bicycle shop, hoping from a young age that one day he would own a store of his own. After returning from World War II, young Charles, at the age of 25, opened his own store, Children's Bargain Town, and stocked it with cribs and baby furniture. Early on, Lazarus learned that customers didn't come back for more and more cribs, they came back for toys. More and more toys. And, as the years passed, he decided to focus on the toy business and founded what became Toys R Us in 1957, giving us the trademark Toys R Us logo with the backwards R, which was always intended to look like a child drew it. By 1965, the giraffe that would become Jeffrey, the company's mascot, was in place, and by 1973, he was starring in his first television commercial. Lazarus believed that the company should focus on the everyday shopper, like a parent searching for the perfect birthday gift or a child hoping to spend his or her weekly allowance. And in its earliest days, and even throughout the 90s, that strategy worked. Toys R Us grew so big that by 2001 it opened a flagship store in Times Square featuring a 60-foot Ferris wheel inside the store along with a giant animatronic dinosaur. And yet, without giving you a boring economics lecture, things weren't as good as they seemed for the company even then. In 2006, Toys R Us was taken private. The $6.6 billion purchase left it with $5.3 billion in debt. In the years that have followed that purchase, big box retailers like Walmart began selling more and more toys, and often at lower prices. In 2017, Hasbro and Mattel each sold about $1 billion worth of toys at Walmart, and Toys R Us didn't sell half that many for either of those companies. When you factor in online rivals like Amazon that also offered lower prices and free shipping, it's been increasingly harder for Toys R Us to compete. So, in September of 2017, the store filed for bankruptcy and will now likely close all of its stores. Hundreds of them. As a toy collector, I do ponder what the closing of the store, the last nationwide chain focused on the selling of toys, will do to the toy industry. I don't pretend to know what the impact will be, but surely there will be one. Maybe it'll be harder for new products to launch or for smaller companies to be noticed. Maybe not, but there will be some kind of impact on what you buy or are able to buy for your kids. And yes, I know buying objects doesn't buy happiness. And yet the whole thing is sad for me and for a lot of people from my generation who grew up going to Toys R Us all the time, or, in my case, just wishing we could. Of course, nostalgia is a factor. Everyone my age has at least one childhood memory at Toys R Us. I grew up in small-town America and was more familiar with Toys R Us from the TV commercials with that catchy jingle that would air after, let's say, Ninja Turtles or before Animaniacs than I was the actual location. But the name recognition was there. On the occasion when my family traveled to a city that had a Toys R Us, one of the coolest things to me in the entire world as a child was to actually go there.
There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I could play with. From bikes and trains to video games. It was the biggest toy store there is.
An entire store where all they sell is toys. And it was right there in the name. So you wouldn't have to ask your parents if you could go look at the toys or go to that section. That's all there was. I would argue that whether you went on a weekly basis or, like I did, just once in a while when you had the chance, the ability to walk down aisle after aisle and see every toy that your local department store had, plus every toy you'd seen a commercial for, and then maybe even the best part, toys that you didn't even know existed was, and quite frankly still is, an exciting thing. Shelves that you couldn't even see the top of, and aisles that seemed to stretch on for forever with products completely in stock. You'd see stuff you'd save your allowance for, stuff you'd ask for Christmas, and stuff you knew you'd never get, but you felt lucky that you got to see it firsthand and maybe play with it. To some degree, Toys R Us really was like a little kid's Las Vegas, or like Disney World without an entry fee. Because as a kid, no matter what life had dealt you, or what you could even afford, it was fun to browse the aisles at Toys R Us, play, examine things, and dream. And so lots of us are mourning the closing of a retail store that many of us may have not even went to that often. And I know there's some irony and hypocrisy there. But I recall the magic of when my family would drive by Toys R Us, and I would start the routine of asking, "Can we go? Can we go? Can we go?" And the overjoyed feeling when my parents said yes. And how it felt to be able to roam those aisles and play and explore and imagine and dream. I remember weighing my options, picking up toy after toy after toy until I would find the one that I just couldn't live without that day. As a child, the feeling of picking out a new toy is something that can never be forgotten. Now, years later, as a parent, I've gotten to experience that same exact feeling through the eyes and smiles of my children. For a child, stepping into a toy store is like a tiny slice of heaven. As a parent, that feeling that a new toy brings continues when I see the excitement on my kiddos' faces after they ask, "Can I get this?" And I get to say, yes. I took my kiddos to a Toys R Us a week or two ago, and I told them it would probably be the last time we'd ever get to go there. And I got to see their excitement and sort of relive my childhood excitement through them as we ran through the store. Because when you go inside Toys R Us with kids, or as a kid, it's like all bets are off. It's almost impossible for a child not to run through the aisles. And so we did, and the 20-minute time limit I'd set for us in my head was totally out of the window. Every aisle, there was new amazement, a character they loved, a toy they'd only seen in a commercial, and a whole collection of toys they didn't even know existed. They would see things and say, "Wow, look at the Pokemon. Look, Daddy, they have Super Mario Checkers. Oh, cool. Steve from Minecraft in iron armor with an ocelot. Lego Hulkbuster Iron Man and Thanos. I've never seen that before." And while we didn't spend much money there, it was the experience that mattered. Sure, I appreciate the wonders of shopping on my phone and from the convenience of my couch. We all do. That's part of why Toys R Us is closing, after all. I'm not the first person to say this, but I guess it never really occurred to me that I wouldn't always get to have that old-fashioned toy store experience with my own children. Because browsing those 5 toy aisles at Target or Walmart or whatever department store won't ever be able to match that feeling from being in a toy store. And skimming through a website or an app sure won't. Toys R Us was the kind of place that a child, or an adult toy collector for that matter, could only conceive of in their wildest dreams. The closing of Toys R Us means so much to people like me, because with it seems to come the death of the toy store in general. So, depending on when you're watching this, and what exactly happens to the brand, if you can still go to Toys R Us, go. Take your kids, and make some memories. Tell them that while you didn't want to grow up, that this is what it felt like to be a Toys R Us kid. There will always be toys, and there will always be places that sell them, even if it's mostly online with a few scattered toy shelves here and there at the store. But imagine telling the children of the future, "Hey, you know those 5 aisles at Target that you spend all your time in, that you beg to go to? Well, imagine if there was an entire store."